Hi, I'm Susan Lohman, the Crochet Architect. Have you seen the new Red Heart all-in-one granny square yarn, but you're afraid to try it, or you've tried it and you just can't get it to work out right? Well, stay tuned because I'm going to teach you how to make a granny square with it. This is what's left of my skein of Red Heart all-in-one granny square yarn. This yarn is a new yarn from Red Heart, and it comes in a lot of different colors. This one makes this granny square looking color, and there's all different colors available. The nice thing about it is when you make your granny squares, you have 2 tails instead of 10 on a 5-round granny square. So there's a whole lot less yarn to weave in. The reason is because they've dyed a certain length of yarn for each of the rounds. Here's round 1, here's round 2, there's more of that color, rounds 3 and 4 and 5. So one color just goes into the next color. Sometimes the color changes aren't really neat and tidy, but that's okay. I can live with that. As long as there's less ends to weave in, that's great. So these are a couple granny squares that I've got to show you. This one was done with the pattern that comes on the label, and there is a pattern on the back of the label. It's very small print, but that works for most people. I've changed my pattern up a little bit because the square, when I work it as per the label, I've only got a small tail at the end, and that's hardly even enough to weave in, let alone sew the squares together or crochet them together. So I've come up with a little bit of tweaking to that granny square, and I've got a different granny square that I'd like to teach you today, and I have lots of tail left over at the end of round 5 so that I can join my squares together. So let me show you some of the differences. In the Red Heart granny square, they have started their first round in each round with a chain 6. That counts as their first double crochet, the first 3 chains, and the second 3 chains is their chain 3 space. And they have chain 3 spaces in each one of the corners. I've started my granny square with a chain 3 right here, which counts as my first double crochet, and then I have 2 more double crochet for my group of 3. I've also worked chain 2 spaces in the corners. So those are a couple of differences. The actual pattern on the label says to use a size I hook, but I've found that a size H hook works much better for me so that I can get my color changes in the corner where they need to be at the end of each round. Another one of the big changes that I've made is the Red Heart granny square has double crochets worked in each round. I found that I can work my double crochets in rounds 1 through 4, but I'm changing to a half double crochet on round 5 so that I have all this extra yarn to weave in. I mean, not to weave in, but to join my squares. And I find that there's very little difference in the finished size. My granny square is about a 1/4 inch smaller, so it's 5 3/4 instead of 6 inches. And I find that that's fine for most projects as long as it's not a garment. That would make a big difference, but that's good. Another difference is Red Heart's pattern joins with a slip stitch in the 3rd chain of the beginning chain 6. I end my rounds with a chain 1 and a single crochet, and you can see it right here. Here's my chain 1 and single crochet, and that counts as my chain 2 space in the corner. So that leaves me in the right place to start my first group of 3 double crochets on each round. So let's go ahead and work a granny square together with this yarn, and whenever you start your ball of yarn, the Red Heart granny square, you want to know what your first and second colors are. So according to the label, they show you what that granny square with that color is going to look like. The yarn that I'm using is a soft white pink punch, just in case you're wondering, but they have quite a few different color combinations. So the middle of my granny square is going to be the lavender, and the second color will be the red. I don't want to start with lavender and go into white, because the white is the amount for round 5, which is the longest length. All of these colors have a certain length to them that's appropriate for crocheting that round of the granny square. So, like I said, I'm using a size H hook. You can use an I hook and try that, but if you find that you don't have enough yarn with an I hook, then go ahead and go down to an H hook. You can even go to a G hook, whatever your gauge or tension requires to get the right number of stitches with the length of the color that you've got for that round. So we're going to start with a slip knot, and we're leaving about a 4-inch tail. That's, yeah, it's close enough. So we will make 4 chains, and then we'll join with the slip stitch in the first chain to make a ring. And this is how we start a lot of projects in the round. And here's my ring, and here's the hole in the center of it. So I'm going to start the round of stitches with 3 chains. That's going to count as my first double crochet. And now we're going to work a number of double crochet into the ring. So we insert our hook in that hole in the center, and I'm going to wrap my tail around here so that I can work over the tail as well. I'm going to pull up a loop, and we're going to finish our double crochet. We'll do our second double crochet. Let me get that tail out of the way. It's getting to be a little unruly today. Okay, we're working in groups of 3 double crochet. If you've never done a granny square before, it's typically groups of 3 double crochet. So this is one side with the 3 double crochets with our chain 3 counting as the first one. And then we'll chain 2 for our corner. And then we're going to do a group of 3 double crochets into the center of our ring. And we can make these tall or short. I will show you how to do that. Here's 3 double crochets, and we need 2 chains for the corner. Now, if you want a short double crochet, you're going to yarn over. You're going to have good tension on here. You're not going to have it loose. And you're going to insert your hook and pull up a short loop and finish your double crochet. And that's going to be a short double crochet. If you want a long double crochet, you can have it a little bit looser, insert your hook and pull up this loop a little higher. This is called the golden loop. And to make a taller double crochet and use more yarn, you want to pull that loop up a little higher. And you can finish that double crochet. So there's 2 double crochets, and we need our third one. Okay, and now we have 3 sides and 2 corners. We'll do another 2 chains for our third corner, and we're going to need 3 more double crochets. So here's 1 and 2 and 3. And you'll notice that my color is changing. And this is a pretty good spot for the color to change here, because all we have left is the chain 1 and single crochet in the corner. And we want our color to change right about in this last stitch. So here's our chain 1, and here's our 3 chains that we started with, and we're going to single crochet in the top chain of those chain 3. So here's my color change, and that's exactly where I want it. Now, if you're doing shorter double crochets throughout, you're probably going to end up with about this much extra of your lavender or whatever color you have for round 1. And you don't want that, so you'll have to rip back some and make taller stitches so that you'll have the right, your color change will happen here in the corner. You want it right about in this last stitch. So we're ready to start round 2. We have our 4 groups of 3 double crochets and our 4 corner chain 2 spaces. Remember, this chain 1 and single crochet counts as the last chain 2 space. So we can start with 3 chains for our first double crochet, and we're going to work 2 double crochets around this joining single crochet. So here's 1 and 2, and that's basically working it into our corner chain 2 space. Now we have this much yarn for our second round, and we're going to chain 1 in between, and in the next corner we will work 3 double crochets, 2, 3, and 2 chains for the corner, and another 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3. Now I'm making these a little bit taller, and we will see where we come out at the end of this round with the next change in color. Okay, I already did my chain 1 in between my corners. I can do 3 double crochet. Whoops, we don't want to split our yarn. That doesn't work too well. Okay, 1, 2, 3, and our corner chain space is 2 chains, and then we want 3 more double crochets. 1, 2, 3, and now we have a chain 1 in between. And we're going to do our next corner. 1, 2, 3 double crochets, 2 chains for that corner. We can scoot our double crochets over a little bit to make room for the other 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. And we have a chain 1, and now we're going to have 3 double crochets in the last corner. And here we can see that our color is changing to the next color. And we have about this much yarn for our last 3 double crochets. So let's see how that's going to work out. We have 1, 2, and 3. Ooh, not bad at all. Okay, I'm liking my looser tension. Sometimes my tension's a little too tight and I have too much yarn left over of that color. So if that happens, then you rip back and make taller stitches. And if you run out of yarn, you rip back and make shorter, tighter stitches. So we've got our 3 double crochet in the corner. You chain 1 and join with a single crochet in that last, in the top of that beginning chain 3. Now this is going to be a little bit noticeable right here since it's not the new color. So I'm going to go back a little bit and I'm going to make these 3 double crochets a little bit taller than I was originally. So I'm going to pull up that golden loop a little bit and make these 3 taller. And it's not going to be noticeable in the look of the finished granny square. Different heights of double crochets will not be that noticeable. So now I can do my chain 1, and I want to make that a little loose also. And then my joining single crochet. And I'm just got the hint of that next color there. So I'm happy with that. That'll work out fine. So that's the end of round 2. We've got our groups of 3 double crochets. We have 1 chain in between those and 2 chains in the corners. So we can move on to the third round, which starts the same way with 3 chains and 2 double crochets worked around that single crochet, which is essentially in the corner chain 2 space. Now we have a chain 1, and we're going to work 3 double crochets in this chain 1 space. And this is basically how you do rounds 3 and 4. In each of your chain 1 spaces, you will work 3 double crochets. I have a chain 1 between my corner 3 and my middle 3, and I'll have a chain 1 between my middle 3 and my next corner 3. So we have 3 double crochets. Oops. 1, 2, 3, and then our chain 2 in the corner, and then we will work another 3 double crochet in this corner chain 2 space. And I will finish up rounds 3 and 4 working just like this, making sure my color is going to change in that first corner where I'm joining. If it doesn't, I have to rip back some and adjust my stitches. So it's a trial and error on this yarn. Some people love it and some people hate it. I'm getting used to it, and I don't mind ripping back and getting it to look right because I like those corners to look nice and neat. If you have your color changes happening way too soon or way too late, you'll either have lots of extra yarn or not enough yarn when you finish your granny square. And you always want to finish your granny square where it's going to change to the beginning color for the next granny square. But I will meet you at the end of round 4 so we can do round 5 together. So go ahead and work those. If you're working on a granny square with this yarn, do your first 4 rounds and we'll do round 5 together. Okay, I have finished my first 4 rounds, and if you're working with me, hopefully you've gotten to the end of your 4th round. What I noticed when I was working my 3rd round was I needed to make a little bit shorter stitches because I was running out of yarn, so I made shorter ones on that round. And I kind of did a little bit of each on my 4th round. But whatever your tension is, given the length of each color of your skein of yarn, is what you're going to go with. So we're ready for our round 5, and we're actually going to be working half double crochets instead of double crochets on that round. So we've already joined with our chain 1 single crochet. We're going to start with a chain 2 instead of chain 3 because that counts as our first half double crochet. So we're still going to be working around our single crochet that we used for joining, but we're going to work a half double crochet instead of a double crochet. That gives us 1 less yarn over and uses less yarn on this last round. So we're going to have lots of yarn left over for joining our squares. So we're going to do the same type of pattern here, but just doing half double crochets. So we have our chain 2 counting as our first half double, and our 2 half doubles. So we have our 3 half doubles here. Have a chain 1 in between, and we're ready to do 3 half doubles in our next chain 1 space. Now, if you have never done a granny square before, let me point something out to you. Okay, you can see in the first round we have 4 groups of 3 double crochet. And in the second round, we have 8 groups of 3 double crochet. In the third round, we have 12 groups. So we're adding 4 more groups of 3 double crochet in each round. We have 1 on each side, 2 on each side, 3 on each side, and 4 on each side, times 4 sides. So just keep that in mind. You want to make sure that you have the right number of groups of double crochets in each of these rounds and half double crochets in our last round. So we have our 3 half double crochet worked in that chain 1 space. We'll chain 1 in between, and we'll work 3 half double crochets in our next chain 1 space. Now another nice thing about this alternate granny square is it really doesn't matter too much what your tension is on your last round, because you're going to end up with plenty of yarn at the end for joining your squares together, no matter if you have loose tension or tight tension in that last round. So we're working our 3 half double crochets in each one of these chain 1 spaces with a chain 1 in between, and we're going to work in the corner. We're going to do 3 half double crochets, and then a chain 2. We're continuing to have that corner chain 2 space, and we're going to do 3 more half double crochets. And that's what I'm going to do on each of these sides. If you're working around with me, then go ahead and do that. And I will meet you when I get to the beginning corner so we can finish off this granny square together. Okay, so here I am at the end of round 5. Before we finish off round 5, we want to make sure that we have 5 groups of 3 half double crochet on each side of our granny square. Okay, if we haven't worked our corners correctly, then we may not have 5 groups of 3 half double crochets. So we're actually going to end this the same way as we did the other rounds. We'll chain 1 and join with a single crochet in that top chain of the beginning chain. Now there's only 2 chains here instead of 3, so it's the second chain. And we will go ahead and finish this off. But we don't want to cut our yarn here. We want to go all the way to the end of this color where it's going to start changing color to the beginning of our next granny square. So we'll go ahead and cut our yarn there, and we'll pull it all the way through our last loop on the hook and finish that off. And I like to kind of fiddle with this loop and just get it nice and neat. So there we have it. Here is my alternate granny square using half doubles at the end. And if I've done this well, I should have the same size as my other one, and I do. What do you know? One other thing I wanted to tell you about this yarn is there's enough yarn in here to get 14 to 15 granny squares from one skein. So that's a good number of granny squares. That can make quite a few different projects. I'm going to join all my granny squares together to make a scarf or 2. I may have more than enough for 1 scarf, so I may do 2. I hope this video has been helpful for you to successfully crochet granny squares with this new all-in-one granny square yarn. If you'd like a copy of my alternate granny square pattern, it's available for purchase on my website. The pattern includes written instructions as well as a symbol crochet chart. I've put together a special discount code for you to use on the purchase of the pattern as a special thank you for watching this video all the way to the end. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more of my crochet videos, please subscribe to my channel. Thanks so much for watching, and happy granny square crocheting to all of you. And I put together, you're talking. And I've put together a special discount code for you, and I'm laughing. Oh boy, getting giddy here. It's a written pattern, which includes a symbol crochet chart. Blip, 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 blip. Okay, let's go back to the beginning.